Hi, Tanya. We finally meet.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, I know you're very busy, so I won't keep you too long. Well, let me tell the audience a little bit about you, and then I'll ask you some questions. Tania León is a vital personality on today's music scene and is highly regarded as a composer and conductor, and for her accomplishments as an educator and advisor to arts organizations. She has been the subject of profiles on ABC, CBS, CNN, PBS, BB3, Telemundo, Independent Films, and Univision. Her orchestral work, Stride, commissioned by the New York Philharmonic in celebration of the centennial of the 19th Amendment, was awarded for that. She was awarded the 2021 Pulitzer Prize in Music. In July 2022, she was named a recipient of the 45th Annual Kennedy Center Honors for Lifetime Achievement, Artistic Achievement, along with George Clooney, Amy Grant, Gladys Knight, and U2. She has guest conducted the New York Philharmonic and important orchestras throughout the world. She was the new music advisor to Kurt Masur and the New York Philharmonic in the 1990s. Other notable achievements have included being the co-founder and first music director of the Dance Theater of Harlem, the founder and artistic director of Composers Now, which is dedicated to the empowerment of living composers by celebrating the diversity of their voices and honoring the significance of their artistic contributions to the cultural fabric of society. And thank you very much, Tanya, for recently inviting my New York Virtuoso singers to participate in your Composers Now presenter, planner, co-marketing and promotion initiative. Thank you very much. And I just found out that you will be the composer in residence with the London Philharmonic. So congratulations on that. And there is much more that you can find out online about her. So again, welcome. And I will have the privilege of conducting on February 19th the New York premiere, or is it an East Coast premiere?
East Coast premiere, yes.
Of your astounding and powerful choral piece, Rezos, or Prayers in Spanish, based on texts by Jamaica Kincaid. Because of the complexity and general kaleidoscopic activity throughout this stunning piece, such as rapidly changing meters and textures, speedy utterances of texts, and constant dynamic shifts, we will be devoting a lot of time to speaking the piece before we even begin to sing it. We'll save a lot of time. Now, you say that Rezos is a sound palette propelled by a series of complex chords that dissolve into simple sounds, sudden interruption, and or silence. And also the harmonic environment is your reflection of masses of people raising their voices in heartfelt collective prayer. And the rhythmic environment is influenced by indigenous overtones of the many cultures of the Americas. So can you talk a little bit about this piece and the text and what motivated you to compose it using Jamaica's text, please?
Well, Jamaica and we come from the same region of the world. So our perspectives are, very related to each other. And her words motivate me to really to produce something that actually is a little bit more personal. And I love poetry and I love poets, and I have collaborated with a lot of poets, but I had never, collaborated with Jamaica. So it was a joy to have her permission to utilize her text. And based on that, that is why the piece has these shifts, because I actually, I am, let me say, as a composer, we all learn all the techniques, we all learn all the rules and regulations, structure, syntax, lines, how to put a piece together. But in my case, I not only utilize that, which is already intellectually inside me, but I actually trust my intuition tremendously. because I have, in a way, I have to feel the piece.
Right.
If I don't feel the piece, I'm not okay. I'm not really, it makes me very insecure,
Mhm.
I mean, when I don't feel anything right in that piece.
And
And so that is actually what motivated me to really go sometimes, in sections that might seem erratic, but it's not that. And another thing, Harold, before you ask me further questions, is that thinking about prayers all over the world, regardless of what the faith may be, I mean, it's something that, in a way, all the separations that we insist in creating gets sort of like abolished, because in the act of prayer, we are in unity.
right,
It,
beautiful. Yes, whatever religion, whatever culture,
it doesn't matter.
doesn't
Yeah,
matter at all. And when
yeah.
you say you must feel it, I mean, do you feel like growing up in Cuba, you were a concert pianist, and you danced a lot, and you welcomed all kinds of different styles into your body and soul. Do you think, I mean, your uh, style of writing, is it infused, not just in this piece, but all your works? Are they infused with the rhythms and sounds of all that was happening in Cuba as you walked to your lessons and met with ballet dancers and street singers and all that? Is that all part of this piece?
Well, I mean, it's me.
Yeah.
It's
And
something that I cannot, I am the sum total of all my experiences from
right.
childhood to now.
Right.
I've learned a great deal. I mean, right here in the United States, and my first 12 years, I was immersed with the dance theater of Harlem, learning all kind of different ways of movement. They actually taught me the dances, the local dances, and
Mhm.
the dances of the time. And this is very actually uh, natural for me, because I mean, being born in Cuba, Cuba is very well known for its music,
Mhm.
and everybody there dances. So I mean, I was dancing since I was a child.
Yes.
That is part of the culture,
Right.
and at least for me, it renews my spirit.
Hmm.
It gives me a lot of hope, when sometimes I'm hopeless. I
Right.
I get and I put some music, and even if I dance with a broom, it doesn't matter.
Right.
It's the acting of letting the soul sort of like have a moment
Right.
of of of,
And
of freedom
right.
of flowing. I mean, going with the flow.
Right.
That's
It's an outlet for expressing joy. I mean,
yeah.
I feel like I should tell the audience, feel free to dance, get up in the aisle and dance while they're hearing Rezos. But maybe that's taking too big of a risk.
No, I mean, it's going to be different. No,
No,
because I mean, there's nothing. I mean, actually, that would anchor a specific tempo, or if you see a specific downbeat, or it's a very different thing.
right. It's not like the movement, the waltz in Berlioz's Symphony Fantastique, which is in three the whole time. What was fascinating to me was the text, the it's kind of depressing and in short statements, and the music is just so alive. It's the many other composers might have written very soft and slow music for this, and then but yours is infused with so many different ideas. It's wonderful, and it's
Thank you.
very hard. And and that leads me to the question: since it's so difficult to perform, I mean, did you? I mean, you must, of course, you realized when you wrote it that high school choirs are not going to be performing this.
Of
This,
course.
this is so. What motivates a composer like you to write something this difficult for singers when you know there's so few choirs that can do justice to it?
Well, I don't. think it's so difficult. I mean, in my estimation and in my mind, if it precisely it goes with the flow that is happening, you know, as a threat to the entire piece, and it has to do also with as though you have a camera and you point into a certain part of the world and you see people in prayer doing certain movements, you know, I mean, in certain cultures, prayer is this,
Right.
you know, accompany of this movement, you know, or if not, prayer might be totally, completely with the eyes closed and totally no mobility. And so, in other words, it's actually uh, us as human beings expressing in whichever way we want to express,
Right.
and trying to capture that moment with the movement of that moment,
Right.
which is something that I went to YouTube and I saw a lot of different manifestations of prayers. When I travel, if it is permitted to me, I go to any kind of temple,
Mhm.
and I see, you know, people, how people in silent might use their body to express, you know, I mean, whether it's sadness, usually it's like this, you know, if it is joy, it's usually like that, you know, I mean, it's unpredictable.
Yeah.
And that unpredictability, you know, unpredictability
Mhm.
is something that I wanted to reflect in
Right.
a certain way. And also, as far as the text, it might sound um, it might sound sad, but for me, it was introspective. You
Mhm.
know, we
Right.
all have that moment, you see,
Right.
and we all sometimes, you know, um, cover um, our feelings, you know, and smile sometimes when we don't want to smile. But a smile is very good for the body, you know. I mean, it says that the more that you smile, really sincerely, the more healing you give to your body and to your soul. So I mean, it's an act of gratitude in a way. Yes.
Well,
Mhm.
I hope we can do justice to it, and it's a catharsis, and it's also uplifting to do some a work like this. So I'm looking forward to it so much. We begin rehearsals next week already.
Yeah.
Um, so I wanted to ask you about the Brooklyn Philharmonic Community Concert Series in 1978, and also um, was that was that started when Lucas Force was the conductor?
Yes, it was Lucas, the one that invited us, meaning Julius Eastman, Talib Rasul Hakim, and myself, to start a series where we would get not only to activate consciousness toward musics that haven't been heard. It's like the music of people of color, and music of women, music of people of different cultural roots, you know, which at the time was not a thing.
No, it wasn't.
I mean, now it's happening,
Yeah,
but at the time it was very innovative.
right.
So we started doing that, and we did that for 10 years.
Nice.
You know, of course, we lost Julius in the interim, and also Rasul. So I was the one that ended up finishing the entire series, and that was at the end of the 80s.
Right.
Yeah. Mhm.
Well, I mentioned that because I want to know a little bit more about that, but also because I actually worked with Lucas for a long time. I was his choir master of the Brooklyn Philharmonic, and this ties in. What I just said ties into the group which is performing Rezos in a few weeks, February 19th, was started because Lucas approached me and he said, I want you to, we're going to form a chorus, a professional chorus. We're going to call it the Brooklyn Philharmonic Singers, which we did. And it was to premiere a piece by somebody who influenced you and obviously influenced the formation of the New York Virtuoso Singers, Hans Werner Henze, the German
Oh
composer.
my God.
So he gave me this extremely complex piece by Hans Werner Henze called Orpheus Behind the Wire, which I
Yeah.
started sitting at the piano every day, open score for like 6 months, trying to learn it. And I performed it with them. And then I said to myself, and that was only a one-time event. And I said, I have to have a professional chorus to do contemporary music, very difficult music, and thus started the New York Virtuoso Singers. So between Lucas and Hans Werner Henze, you and I have been influenced. And also, I was a church organist in Harlem for 15 years, and back in the 70s, from 1976 to 90, and I used to do classical music with them, but they had a wonderful gospel choir, and they said, Harold, hands off, just enjoy it. And I did, and I learned gospel music from them. So we have the Harlem connection too. Um, anyway, it's amazing. Um, one more thing, and which is I managed to find a few clips of you conducting on YouTube. And I'm not just throwing this compliment out willy-nilly, but I mean, I study conducting, I study conductors and what they do, and I teach conducting. And you're a natural. So did you study formally conducting with somebody?
Yes, I studied with Laszlo Halas.
Oh yes, I remember him.
Yes, he was a co-founder of the New York City Opera
Yes,
with Julius Rudel. Yes,
yes. Oh,
he
you
was my first teacher, and then I ended up in the Tanglewood, and my teachers were Leonard Bernstein.
uh-huh.
Yes, and not only that, and of course, Seiji Osawa. They
Mhm.
were the ones that were imparting the, conducting skill at that time. And then I continue having a very close collaboration and friendship with Maestro Bernstein.
Mhm.
And to the point that when he celebrated his 70th anniversary, I was one of the conductors in that celebration. And I
Nice.
conducted the premiere of a young composer called Ed Campion.
Uh-huh.
Yes, that was part of the celebration. It was held at Town Hall. Yeah.
Nice. Great teachers. I mean,
Oh yeah, yeah. My dear.
you're lucky to have had such a great uh,
Thank you. Yeah.
mentor.
Yeah.
Seiji Osawa has beautiful technique, and Leonard Bernstein. I mean, really.
Yes, yes. I mean, I still remember him teaching me La Mer by Debussy.
Oh yeah. Wow.
And he would not let me go. He said, no, until you don't see that C in your mind, it's not going to happen. Oh, I mean, he drove me crazy. But it's really, really, I mean, it's something that I cherished.
Yeah.
He's not only he's imparting the knowledge, but also his support. It's something that I would never forget.
Right.
Yes.
Wonderful. Is
Uh-huh.
anything else you want to say about Rezos, or you said a lot about it, or anything else you want to say to our audience?
No, I mean, the thing is that you see, we have been used to listen to music from day one, and we know pieces that we know exactly what the next note is going to be,
Mhm.
and or what the next forte or the next piano. I mean, in terms of the dynamics of the piece, we know already a piece that we have heard many, many, many times.
Right.
So every time that we hear something new, it's actually a search.
Mm.
It's a listening search to identify what we are listening to. And one of the things that I usually recommend to everybody is like a child when they're discovering the world.
Mhm.
There's nothing more beautiful than seeing a child's eyes looking at everything for the first time.
Right.
It's just exhilarating. So the same thing, if we listen to something for the first time, we cannot compare it to anything else. We
Right.
have to receive that. And if we want in our imagination to create our own film, let's assume, or image,
Mhm.
okay, fine.
Yeah.
That is one of the things that I usually recommend. There was a composer, Pauline Oliveros, that used to talk about deep listening. You see, deep listening. So when we listen deeply, something happens.
Right. Right.
Something happens, I mean, and, we talk about, for example, Ligeti, not because of that film, 2001, people heard something that perhaps they would not have heard by itself, in a concert.
Right.
And yet, I mean, that score was embedded in that film and it became a success.
Right. Classic. I know.
It's a classic nowadays.
Yeah.
So, and this is what I'm saying. I mean, same thing, I mean, we gotta even talk about the Rite of Spring when it was premiere and everybody said, oh my God, and then now it's a classic.
Out. Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
students can play it and dance companies can not have.
Yeah. And I wonder if it has to do with the act of repetition. You repeat something, I mean, it's like making an exercise. We exercise and at first it's very difficult, but then by next month, if we have done that every day, all of a sudden it's very easy, and it's the same thing.
Well, maybe we'll make Rezos the encore also. I don't know. Well, listen, thank you so much for your time, and thanks for everything you've done for in music and for young composers and for everybody. And I hope to meet you soon in person. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Harold. I'm very honored, and thank you so much for your support and
you,
collegiality.
Yeah. Likewise.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now. Yeah.